Michel Foucault and George Orwell. Two thinkers, two visions. One unsettling truth. The story of power is not written only through kings, armies, and laws, but through ideas, invisible forces that shape how people think, behave, obey, and resist. When we seek to understand how modern societies control individuals without constant violence, two towering figures emerge from the 20th century, Michel Foucault and George Orwell. One, a French philosopher who dissected power as a subtle, internalized system woven into everyday life. The other, a British novelist who warned of brutal authoritarianism through stark and unforgettable fiction. Though they approached the problem from different angles, philosophy and literature both sought to expose the mechanisms of control that govern modern civilization. This comparison explores their visions of power, freedom, surveillance, and the human condition, flowing continuously without tabular breaks. Michel Foucault, the architect of invisible power. Michel Foucault, 1926 to 1984, was not interested in tyrants alone, he was interested in systems. Born in France, Foucault devoted his life to uncovering how power operates beneath the surface of institutions that appear neutral or even benevolent: prisons, hospitals, schools, armies, and bureaucracies. Unlike traditional political thinkers, he did not see power as something possessed by rulers and imposed from above. Instead, he argued that power is everywhere, diffused, embedded in language, norms, and knowledge itself. Central to Foucault's thought was the concept of disciplinary power. He famously used Jeremy Bentham's panopticon, a prison design in which inmates never know when they are being watched, as a metaphor for modern society. The genius of the system was not constant surveillance, but the possibility of surveillance. Individuals internalize control, disciplining themselves even when no authority is visibly present. In this way, power becomes efficient, silent, and self-sustaining. Foucault argued that modern societies no longer rely primarily on spectacle and punishment, but on normalization. People learn what is acceptable, healthy, productive, and normal, and adjust their behavior accordingly. Knowledge itself becomes a tool of control: medical diagnoses, psychological labels, criminal classifications, all shaping identity. Under this framework, freedom is not simply taken away, it is reshaped. Individuals believe they are acting freely, while unconsciously conforming to systems that regulate their bodies, desires, and thoughts. Foucault's legacy is deeply unsettling. He did not offer comfort or simple solutions. Instead, he forced societies to confront an uncomfortable question: what if power does not need chains, walls, or dictators to dominate? What if modern control works best when it is invisible, internalized, and willingly accepted? George Orwell, the prophet of overt tyranny. George Orwell, 1903 to 1950, approached power not as a philosopher, but as a storyteller. Through novels, essays, and political commentary, Orwell sought to warn humanity of what happens when authority becomes absolute. His most famous work, 1984, remains one of the most chilling portrayals of totalitarianism ever written. In Orwell's world, power is direct, brutal, and unapologetic. Orwell imagined a society ruled by fear, omnipresent surveillance, propaganda, historical revision, and psychological terror. The state watches everything. Language is manipulated through newspeak to limit thought itself. Independent ideas become crimes. Truth is not discovered, it is manufactured. The individual exists only as a subject of the party, stripped of privacy, memory, and ultimately identity. Unlike Foucault's subtle mechanisms, Orwell's power is loud and violent. Torture rooms replace classrooms, telescreens replace windows. The threat is constant and explicit. Control is maintained not by internal discipline alone, but by fear of punishment, disappearance, and death. Freedom, in Orwell's vision, is crushed openly, not disguised. Orwell's strength lay in clarity. He did not dissect systems academically, he showed their consequences emotionally. His warnings were aimed at ordinary people, urging vigilance against censorship, propaganda, and blind obedience. His work became a cultural alarm bell, reminding generations that unchecked power, once normalized, becomes irreversible. The clash: invisible control versus overt oppression. At first glance, Foucault and Orwell appear to describe different worlds. Foucault's society disciplines silently, Orwell's terrorizes openly. Yet together, they reveal two sides of the same coin. Orwell warns us where unchecked power can end, Foucault explains how it often begins. Orwell's nightmare is obvious and recognizable, a boot on the face of humanity. Foucault's danger is quieter and more insidious, a hand gently guiding behavior until resistance feels unnecessary. One rules through fear, the other through normalization. One destroys freedom openly, the other dissolves it slowly. In the modern world, both visions coexist. Surveillance cameras, data collection, social media algorithms, performance metrics, and constant visibility reflect Foucault's disciplinary society. At the same time, censorship, propaganda, and authoritarian crackdowns echo Orwell's warnings. The modern individual stands at the intersection of both realities, watched, categorized, and influenced, sometimes without realizing it. Legacy and modern relevance. Foucault and Orwell did not predict the future in the same way, but together they mapped it. Orwell taught us to fear power when it shouts, Foucault taught us to question power when it whispers. One demands resistance, the other demands awareness. Their combined legacy forces a difficult realization: freedom is not lost only when it is stolen, it can also be surrendered. The greatest threat to liberty may not be the dictator who announces control, but the system that convinces people they are already free. Both men, in their own ways, proved that a human being does not need armies or crowns to change the course of history. A ship, a camel, a caravan, or simply a pen and parchment, armed with vision and courage, can redraw humanity's map. Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus remain immortal, not for dominion over lands, but for expansion of human awareness. They are the explorers who, beyond their journeys, continue to rule the realms of geography, imagination, and history. If you liked this comparison, don't forget to support the channel. Likes, comments, and subscribing power the continuation of content like this. Which other explorers, thinkers, or historical adventurers do you think we should compare in the next video?